There aren't too many things that do that anymore. I am sitting here in 2023, looking back over nearly a century of watching people make the same mistake over and over again, and I feel compelled to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. Your savings account, that place where you think your money is safe, is quietly robbing you blind. And you are thanking the banker for the privilege. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I remember back in the 1940s, when I was just a young man, my father kept a significant amount of cash in a bank account. He thought he was being prudent, being careful. You know what happened to that money? The nominal number stayed the same, but what it could buy, what it could actually do for our family, that eroded year after year. He was watching the wrong scoreboard, and I see people making that exact same mistake today, 70-some years later. Here's what is fascinating to me. When I talk to people, and I still do, I go to these meetings. I talk to investors. I talk to young people starting out. They tell me they being conservative by keeping cash. They use that word conservative. And I have to stop them right there because they confusing safety with certainty. Yes, you are certain the nominal number in your account T go down, barring a bank failure. But you are accepting absolute certainty that your purchasing power will decline. That is not conservative. That is capitulation. Let me give you the mathematics, because mathematics doesn't lie. It doesn't have an agenda. It just is. Say you've got $100,000 sitting in a savings account right now. You are earning, maybe 0.5% interest if you are lucky. Meanwhile, inflation, real inflation, not the cook numbers some bureaucrat gives you, but actual inflation in the things you need to buy, that is running at 3, maybe 4%. Do the subtraction with me. You are losing 2.5 to 3.5% of your purchasing power every single year. That is $2,500 to $3,500 of real wealth just evaporated, gone, and it compounds against you. Warren and I, we used to joke about this, though it is not really funny. We say that the government has figured out the perfect crime. They print money, they devalue your savings, and they do it so slowly that people don't riot in the streets. It is like being robbed by someone who takes $1 out of your wallet every day instead of breaking in and taking everything at once. You barely notice each individual theft, but over a decade, over a lifetime, you wake up poor. Now, I can already hear what you are thinking. You are sitting there saying, "But Charlie, what about safety? What about security? What if the market crashes? What if there is another 2008? And those are legitimate questions, they really are. I lived through 2008. I lived through worse than that. I lived through the 1970s. Let me tell you about the 1970s sometime. But here is what you need to understand. The risk you are afraid of, that is the visible risk, the dramatic risk, the risk that makes headlines. The risk you are ignoring, the guaranteed erosion of purchasing power. That is the one that is actually destroying you. Let me tell you about my friend. I'll call him David, though that is not his real name. David was a smart man, ran a successful business, did very well for himself. In the late 90s, he sold his company, walked away with about $40 million. And you know what he did? He put most of it in money market funds and treasuries because he'd been through the crash of '87, and he was scared. He was in his 50s, figured he'd just live off the interest. Play it safe. I tried to talk to him about this. I really did. I said, "David, you are going to destroy yourself." But he wouldn't listen. Fast forward to today, and you know what happened? His 40 million in nominal terms might have grown to maybe 45 million with all that interest. But in real purchasing power, adjusted for what money can actually buy, he has lost more than half his wealth, half gone. Not in a crash, not in a scandal, not in some dramatic implosion, but slowly, quietly, invisibly. And now he is in his 70s, and he is realizing that his safe strategy has made him poor relative to where he should be. It breaks my heart because it was so preventable. You see, what people don't understand is that money itself isn't wealth. Money is a claim on wealth. It is a medium of exchange. It is a measuring stick. But the real wealth, that is what money can buy, that is goods, that is services, that is productive capacity. And when you hold money while the money supply is expanding, while governments are printing, while inflation is eroding, you are holding a melting ice cube. You can watch it melt. You can measure exactly how fast it is melting, but it is still melting. So what do you do instead? Let me tell you about what Warren and I figured out, probably 60 some years ago now. You need to own pieces of productive assets, not paper, not claims, not promises, but actual productive capacity. Let me break this down for you in a way that might help. The first thing you need to understand is that a great business adapts to inflation. I'll give you an example. We own a significant stake in Coca-Cola. We've owned it since 1988. Back then, a Coke cost what? Maybe 50 cents from a vending machine. Today it is $2, $2.50. Did Coke just sit there and accept lower real returns? Of course not. The business raised prices, the business adapted. The business kept generating earnings that grew over time. That is what a productive business does. It is alive, it responds to its environment. It evolves. Compare that to a dollar bill sitting in a bank account. That dollar bill doesn't adapt. It doesn't respond. It doesn't evolve. It just sits there slowly becoming worth less and less. You are betting on inert paper versus dynamic productive capacity. When you frame it that way, when you really think about what you are doing, it seems almost foolish to choose cash. Now, I need to be very clear about something because I don't want you to misunderstand me and do something stupid. I am not telling you to go out and buy random stocks because some kid on the internet told you they going to the moon. Most stocks are overpriced most of the time. Most investors are their own worst enemies. They buy when everyone's excited and prices are high. They sell when everyone is panicking and prices are low. That is not investing. That is expensive entertainment. And it will destroy you just as surely as cash will, maybe faster. What I am talking about is buying ownership in businesses you actually understand. And this is where the circle of competence comes in. I've been preaching this concept for decades, and people nod along. They say they understand it. And then they go out and invest in things they know nothing about because someone told them it is a good opportunity. Don't do that. Stay within what you understand. Let me give you a test. Can you explain the business to a 10-year-old? Can you describe how it makes money, who its customers are, why those customers will still be there in 10 years? If you can, if it is too complicated, if it requires you to understand some cutting-edge technology or some complex financial engineering, then it is outside your circle of competence. Acknowledge that and move on. For most people, and I include myself in this, the circle of competence is pretty limited. Warren and we avoided technology stocks for decades because we didn't understand them. People thought we were crazy. They thought we were missing out. They were making fortunes in the dot-com boom. And you know what happened? The dot-com boom became the dot-com bust. And we were still sitting there with our businesses that make products people need, that generate cash, that have economic moats around them. Boring businesses, profitable businesses, enduring businesses. If you can pick individual stocks, and most people can there is no shame in that. Then buy a low-cost index fund. Put your money in something that tracks the S&P 500. You own pieces of 500 of America's largest companies. You get their collective growth, their collective adaptation to inflation, their collective compounding over time. And you pay almost nothing in fees. Warren told people that is what they should do. I agree with him. Here is the mathematical reality. Over the past century, stocks have returned about 10% annually. Cash after inflation has returned essentially 10% versus zero. Compound that over 30 years. $100,000 in stocks becomes 1.7 million. 100,000 in cash becomes, 100,000 nominally, but maybe 48,000 in real purchasing power. The difference between those two outcomes is the difference between comfort and poverty and retirement. It is the difference between taking care of your family and being a burden to them. And yet, people choose cash because they afraid of volatility. They afraid of seeing their account balance go down. I understand that fear. I really do. Humans are wired to feel losses more strongly than gains. Loss aversion, the psychologists call it. But you need to understand that volatility is risk. Permanent loss of purchasing power is risk. A stock portfolio might drop 20, 30, even 40% in a market crash. That is painful to watch. I am not going to lie to you, but if you hold, if you don't panic, if you don't sell at the bottom, that portfolio has always recovered over a 10-year period. Always, every single time in market history. Cash, on the other hand, never recovers from inflation. The purchasing power you lose, that is gone forever. Time only moves in one direction, and compound interest only works if you give it time to work. Every year you spend holding cash is a year you can get back. Now, let me talk about real estate, because that is another productive asset that can make sense, but only if you understand what you are doing. I am not talking about flipping houses or speculating on price appreciation. I am talking about property that generates income, that serves a function, that throws off cash flow regardless of what the market thinks it is worth. A rental property that produces monthly rent, that is productive. Commercial real estate leased to solid businesses, that is productive. You are not just hoping someone will pay you more than you paid. You are earning income from the asset itself. And here is a beautiful thing about real estate with inflation. If you finance the purchase with a fixed-rate mortgage, you are borrowing today, expensive dollars, and paying back tomorrow, cheaper dollars. As inflation erodes the real value of that debt, you are essentially getting a subsidy. The tenant is paying you rent that rises with inflation, while your mortgage payment stays fixed. It is a transfer of wealth from the lender to you. But, and this is a big but, real estate is not passive. It is work. You are dealing with tenants, maintenance, property taxes, insurance, regulations. If you buy the wrong property in the wrong location at the wrong price, you will lose money. This is where circle of competence matters again. If you understand a local market, if you know how to evaluate properties, if you can manage the operational side, then real estate can be excellent. If you are buying because some seminar promoter told you it is the path to wealth, you are about to learn an expensive lesson. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. One of the best investments most people can make is in themselves, in their own skills, in their own knowledge, in their own earning power. Think about this mathematically. If you are 30 years old earning $60,000 a year and you work for 35 more years, that is over $2 million in lifetime earnings before considering raises or promotions. Now, what if you invest $10,000 in education or training that increases your earning power by just 20%? You've just created $400,000 of additional lifetime earnings. Show me another investment that returns 40 to 1. You can because it doesn't exist. The return on investing in yourself, when done intelligently, dwarfs every other investment category. But people don't think this way. They scrimp and save to build a cash cushion while their skills become obsolete. They skip the course that could transform their career because it costs a few $1,000s. Meanwhile, that cash cushion is losing 3% a year to inflation, and their stagnant career is costing them tens of thousands in foregone earnings. Now, I am not saying spend recklessly on any education that is marketed to you. The education industry is full of charlatans selling worthless credentials. You need to be brutally honest about what skills actually create value in the marketplace. Learn skills that are in demand, skills that are difficult to replicate, skills that allow you to solve valuable problems for others. Technical skills, communication skills, leadership skills that compound over time. I've spent my entire life learning across multiple disciplines. People ask me why I read so much, why I study physics and biology and psychology along with economics and business. It is because complex problems require tools from multiple toolboxes. You can understand business without understanding psychology. You can understand investing without understanding mathematics. You can understand anything without being able to think clearly and communicate effectively. And here is something beautiful about investing in yourself. The returns can be taken away. The market can crash. Real estate can collapse. A business can fail. But skills stay with you. Knowledge stays with you. The ability to create value stays with you. That is real security, not the false security of a savings account balance. Now let me address something that I know is on people's minds, especially given everything that is happening in the world as we head toward 2024, 2025, 2025, 2026. What about market crashes? What if you invest everything and the market drops 40% next year? It is a fair question, so let me answer it directly. First, if you invest and the market immediately crashes, yes, that is painful. I am not going to pretend otherwise. But if you hold for 10 years, and certainly if you hold for 20 or 30 years, the market has never failed to recover and reach new highs. Not once, not ever. Every single market crash in history has eventually been a buying opportunity for those who had the courage and the cash flow to take advantage of it. Second, you don't have to invest everything at once. Dollar cost averaging, investing a fixed amount regularly over time, eliminates the timing problem. Sometimes you buy high, sometimes you buy low. It averages out. The key is consistency, not timing. Third, and this is crucial, the alternative to investing is guaranteed loss to inflation. People are so worried about a potential 40% crash that might recover. They re-accepting a certain 30% loss over a decade to inflation. That is not rational. That is fear overriding mathematics. And fourth, crashes are opportunities if you have the right mindset. When the market drops 40%, you get to buy great businesses at 40% off. That is when fortunes are made, not lost. The people who lose in crashes are the ones who panic and sell. The people who win are the ones who stay calm, or better yet, buy more. I'll tell you about 2008 since that is the crash everyone remembers. Warren and I, we weren't panicking, we were investing. We put $5 billion into Goldman Sachs, $3 billion into General Electric. People thought we were crazy. The world was ending. Didn't we know that? But we knew those were solid businesses temporarily on sale because everyone was scared. And you know what? We made excellent returns on those investments. Not because we were geniuses, but because we understood that price is what you pay. Value is what you get. And sometimes fear drives price way below value. Looking ahead, and I am not predicting anything specific here because I've never been able to predict accurately, and I don't make money predicting accurately. But looking ahead, I expect more volatility, more uncertainty, maybe more crises. The world is complex. The financial system is fragile in some ways. There are risks everywhere you look. But you know what I also expect? I expect that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, people will still need goods and services. They still drink Coca-Cola and buy insurance and ship packages and use electricity. The businesses that provide those things will still be valuable, and the people who own pieces of those businesses will be wealthier than the people who sat in cash being careful. Here is what I want you to understand about risk. The biggest risk most people face isn't a market crash. It is reaching retirement age without enough savings to live the life they want. It is being 75 years old, looking back and realizing that playing it safe with cash for 40 years was the riskiest thing they could have done. That is the nightmare scenario. And it is far more common than people realize. So what should you do? Let me be very specific because I don't want you to finish reading this and then do nothing. First, calculate how much cash you actually need. 3 to 6 months of living expenses, that is your emergency fund. That is your sleep well at night money. Keep that in cash or cash equivalents where you can get to it quickly. But that is it. Everything else should be in productive assets. Second, if you don't already have investment accounts, open them today, not next week, not when you have time. A brokerage account, retirement accounts, if you are eligible, this takes maybe an hour. There is no excuse for delay. Third, move the excess cash, everything beyond your emergency fund, into productive assets. If you understand individual stocks and can do the work of analyzing businesses, great, buy great companies at fair prices. If you don't and most people don't buy a low-cost index fund that tracks the S&P 500. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect time. Just move the money. Fourth, set up automatic monthly investments. Make it systematic. Have money go from your paycheck directly into investment accounts. Remove the emotional decision making. Make rationality the default. Once it is automatic, you can sabotage yourself. You can panic and stop investing. You can get greedy and chase hot stocks. Fifth, and this is maybe the most important thing, commit to not touching it. Don't check prices every day. Don't panic when the market drops. Don't sell because you are bored or scared or greedy. Just hold. Let compounding do its work. You know what Warren and I always say? Our favorite holding period is forever. Not because we patient saints, though patience helps, but because we understand that business value compounds while trading activity compounds costs and mistakes. We don't make money by being smart. We make money by being consistently rational over long periods of time. Anyone can do that. It doesn't require genius. It requires discipline. Let me tell you something else that is important. The financial industry often gives terrible advice because their incentives don't align with yours. They make money from activity, from fees, from complex products. They don't make money from you buying index funds and holding them for 30 years. So they sell you on active management. They tell you the market is too complex for individuals. They imply you need their expertise, their proprietary strategies, their sophisticated approaches. Most of it is profitable nonsense for them, expensive nonsense for you. The data is absolutely clear on this. After fees, most active managers underperform simple index funds over time. Not some of them, most of them, but they keep collecting fees because people believe expensive must be better, complex must be sophisticated, active must be superior to passive. Wrong on all counts. I am not saying all financial advisors are bad. Some are excellent. But you need to understand their incentive structure. How are they paid? If they repaid commissions on products they sell, that is a red flag. If they repaid a percentage of assets under management, that is better but still creates incentives for unnecessary activity. If they repaid by the hour for advice, that is the best alignment with your interests. The incentive structure tells you everything you need to know about whose interests are being served. Here is the best financial advice you ever get, and it is free. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference in productive assets you understand within your circle of competence. Be patient, don't do stupid things. That is it. That is the whole secret. Everything else is implementation details and optimization around those core principles. But people don't want to hear this. They want complexity, they want secrets, they want to believe there is some sophisticated strategy that will make them rich without discipline or patience. There isn't The secret, which isn't secret at all, is that time plus rationality beats cleverness plus activity every single time. The person who buys great businesses at fair prices and holds them for 40 years will beat the person who trades frequently, chases trends, and pays fees to active managers. Not sometimes, always. History proves this conclusively. Think about our Coca-Cola investment. We bought it in 1988. People thought we were crazy. It wasn't a hot tech stock. It wasn't exciting. It was a boring beverage company. We paid a little over $1 billion. Today, that position throws off more than $600 million in annual dividends alone. Just the dividends, not counting the capital appreciation. We didn't trade it. We didn't try to time the market. We didn't sell when people said it was overvalued. We just held ownership in a great business and let compounding work. That is the entire strategy. It is so simple people think there must be more to it. There isn't now. Let me tie this all together because I want to make sure you understand what I am really saying here. This isn't primarily about getting rich. Some of you will get rich following these principles. Some won't. That depends on a lot of factors. But all of you can avoid poverty. All of you can build sufficient wealth to live comfortably. All of you can take care of yourselves and your families if you just avoid stupid mistakes. And keeping large amounts of cash is a stupid mistake. I am 99 years old as I am telling you this. I've lived through 18 recessions. I've seen empires rise and fall. I've watched thousands of people make financial decisions, and the pattern is so clear it breaks my heart. The people who understand these principles and act on them consistently, they end up fine. Not all of them become billionaires, but they end up with enough. They retire comfortably. They help their kids. They live with dignity and security. The people who don't, who understand these principles, or who understand them but don't act, they struggle. They reach 65 or 70. They look at their savings, and they realize with growing horror that they don't have enough. They worked their whole lives. They were careful with money. They kept it safe in the bank, and they re-pour. And it is so tragic because it was preventable. It was entirely preventable. If you take nothing else from this, understand this one thing. Safety doesn't mean nominal stability. Safety means preserving and growing purchasing power over time. A savings account that maintains your nominal balance while inflation destroys your purchasing power isn't safe. It is catastrophic in slow motion. Real safety comes from owning productive assets that compound over time, that adapt to inflation, that grow wealth rather than destroy it. The choice is yours. You can keep your money in the bank, watch the nominal number stay stable, feel safe because you can see your account balance, and slowly become poor. Or you can move your money into productive assets, accept short-term volatility as the price of long-term returns, think in decades rather than days, and build real wealth. Those are your options. There is no third path. I hope you choose wisely. I really do, because time is the one thing you can get back, and compounding only works if you give it time to work. Every day you wait is a day you can recover. Start now, not tomorrow, not next year. Now your future self will thank you.